task 2 essay structures, and our second essay structure is problem solution essay. In previous lessons, we worked on our advantage disadvantage structure, and today we're going to dissect, we're going to go through all the detailed parts of problem solution structure. First of all, before starting to write an essay, as usual, according to our tradition, you have to first of all come up with ideas. You have to read the topic, understand the topic, find ideas, find the arguments that you want to give, that you want to develop in this essay. And after finishing this stage, you have to start writing your introduction. So our topic here is more and more people are relying on their private cars, and what are the problems and what are the solutions. So the topic is people are using private cars a lot of, like, for a long period of time, or they're over reliant on private cars. What are the problems and what are the solutions? So now let's come up with ideas for this topic. Now let's make a plan of our essay. Let's brainstorm the topic. We have to write the problems and solutions connected with the problem of or over reliance on the car, or overall over reliance of private transport. So what we have to do is problems and solutions, and you have to think about what kind of problems can emerge because of the over reliance on private cars. So the first problems that we have is pollution problems, air pollution mostly. Number two will be traffic congestion, let's just simply say traffic jams, but we cannot give traffic jams in our writing, in our essay, because traffic jams, the word traffic jam is quite informal, so which we can just say traffic congestions, where we can have, there are a lot of words for traffic jams that we can learn in Read and Understand book first edition. So traffic jams, we have safety problems, and we have financial burden related to it, financial burden. So we can say burden. So I think it's enough. Like, we'll have 4 problems and we'll have to solve this problem. So how do we solve pollution problems? Well, we just we just have to find the technology, right? Technology, eco-friendly technology, eco-friendly. For example, we can adopt some hydrogen cars, or there are electric cars like that will not pollute the environment, or will not pollute the environment as much as petrol cars, or internal combustion. They're called internal combustion engine cars. Traffic jams can be solved by just changing the infrastructure, better infrastructure. Because look, for example, we have, Boring Company. We have Hyperloop. The Boring Company is trying to, you can just Google it, it's trying to dig tunnels and have lines and levels of roads underground, and they are just going to decrease the level of congestion through this way. It's one of the ways. Or you can just lengthen the road. You can improve the condition of roads so that the cars will not slow down, and it will lead to traffic congestion. So instead of safety, when it comes to safety, we can have stricter regulations. So we can just impose some regulations on people, like not driving after this, not driving in such conditions, or some other measures with which governments can only impose. Then, in addition to regulation, we can just use simply technology. For example, self-driving cars, autonomous cars, their track record shows that their level of, or their frequency of making mistakes and creating accidents is way lower compared to humans. So when it comes to financial burden, we can just say budget cars, or we can just work on the efficiency of cars. And I'll just write efficiency of cars. By efficiency, I mean cars that don't consume as much energy, for, like, simply energy, let's just say, or as much funds to operate, cars that are easy to maintain, and cars that are simply cheap themselves. So these are the main problems and main solutions. We'll have to, in order to make our essay optimal, we'll have to talk about only 2 of them, because imagine if you are giving 4 problems in one body paragraph, your body paragraph should contain 100 words, and if you write four problems in one body paragraph, you will not be able to explain, you will not be able to describe them fully, and you will not be able to describe them in depth, which will negatively affect your task achievement score. So that's why in order to get the highest possible score, we just have to give 2 problems and 2 solutions. And I'm just going to choose pollution and traffic jams as main problems of our body paragraph, and we just are gonna work on these 2 problems in depth. So now let's continue our body paragraphs with describing the first problem. And as you know, we have starting structure for our problems and solution structures to introduce these arguments. And I'm just gonna write it first one with blank marker. So you're just gonna you're gonna memorize the structure so that you will be able to exploit them in your own essay. Before starting, I will just write the basic structure of the body paragraphs as I did in previous lessons, previous videos, so that you will just remember and you will just understand it more clearly. So they are it. So as you see, body paragraph, whichever body paragraph you're talking about, mainly consists of 3 main parts. Body paragraph 1, for example, describes first problem, and it discusses it, explains it, and gives examples if it's possible, if it exists. For example, if you don't have real life examples, you don't have to give it, and it's optional, and you will not be punished, or you will not be penalized for not giving examples, but you have a higher chance of getting higher task achievement score for giving examples. And how do we start our first problem? So the structure is as you see, I wrote turning to the potential detrimental issues. And here, as you know, as we have seen in the first essays that we discussed in our video lessons, which is advantages and advantages, we use the same structure, which means you can use the same template, but just change the words here to describe different types of essays. For example, when we were talking about advantages and disadvantages of a particular topic, if you remember, here we wrote potential positive side, potential upside. So here we're writing the potential detrimental issues, meaning detrimental problems were simply potential problems. So if you have cause and effect essay, you can just simply potential causes. If you have opinion essay, you can have simply potential argument. So the basic structure stays the same, but only words change. And if you don't understand, I'll try to explain it more easily or in a different way in the continuation of the video. So here the basic structure stays the same, it doesn't change, but the words in it may change. So this is the basic structure, basic templates that you have to memorize to give it at the beginning of the essay. And the main reason behind memorizing or learning and using this structure is number 1, getting more words. So look at the getting as many words as possible. Just look at the word count of this structure. It's 22 words here, and this means that if we combine all the structures that I give, it will be more than 100 words. And why do we need it? Well, most students will not need it because they have ideas. They will be able to explain, articulate their thoughts properly, but there may be situations you never know that when you just don't know what to talk about, or you're not familiar with the topic and you don't have ideas, and then you run a risk of not being able to write an essay with 150 words. In this kind of situations, this kind of structures will help us, because this has 22 words here. So if you just write it, you'll have a much better chance of writing 250 words here. And the next thing that is important, it's the second reason, yes, this has good grammar structures, because we're saying turning to. So what is this structure? It's participle clause. And this, if we so if we just say it in different words, we are saying if we turn to. So if we're making it conditional, if we're turning it, or if we're converting it to subordinate clause, we say if we turn to. But most people can use conditionals, but participle clause is a bit tougher for people. So participle clause is utilized way less than relative clause or other subordinate clauses, conditionals and other subordinate clauses in essays. That's why. So if you use participle clause, you're just guaranteed to get a bit higher grammar score here instead of like conditionals. And another thing which I want to add is that after turning to, after grammar, second reason, we have third reason, which is vocabulary, because most students don't have some academic words, advanced words that they want to use, but they cannot use it properly, or they don't have this vocabulary if this student is lazy. So that's why we can just memorize this advanced words, and you can use it in this template. For example, here the word potential is good, detrimental issues is good, set of problems, you can say detrimental issues. And here again we have got better grammar than others, which relative clause, and here again may stem from. We talked about it. So it has two things. Stem from is good vocabulary here, stem simply, and may is impersonal. Well, may is tentative language. We talked about this structure. We talked about this system a lot of times already. So I hope you know what does it mean, or if you don't know, you can just leave it in comments. We just add the answer. So tentative language is showing that it's not 100% certain to happen. So there are exceptions. So that's why you have to use languages of probability: may, could, might, and others. And here I wrote this phenomenon. If you're talking about situation, it's this phenomenon. If you're talking about someone doing something, it's course of action. Or if you don't want to use this word, or if these words don't fit into your situation, you can just give your topic. For example, in our case, this is over-reliance of cars. We say which may stem from over-reliance on cars. That will be the end. So we just have to give the topic itself, and then we just put a comma, and we just continue. One of the most prominent, the word prominent is good vocabulary here, and concerning is also good vocabulary. So concerning means worry. So concerning means problematic. Concerning means causing people to worry. So, and here this is good structure, and I just missed one word, so I just made a mistake. So again, I'm just gonna state that if you finish your essay, when you finish your essay, you have to set aside some period of time to check your own essay. For example, I'm making a mistake, I'm a teacher, so it's crazy. Once, I had to add once here, but I didn't. It happens sometimes. You never know, because your brain is processing multiple things, and it cannot be able to, it may not be able to look at and monitor everything at the same time. So you just have to read and understand, read objectively and try to find your own mistakes here. So one of the most prominent and concerning once, so here once is referring back to the issues. I use the reference word. Using reference word is the best way of avoiding repeating the word if you don't have synonyms. right? So here would probably be, as we know, again, the structure is, what was the structure? It was tentative language. And then you just give your first problem, which is, in our case, pollution, increased pollution. I just write increased. So what do we do after this? I said increased pollution. So we did the first part. Then we have to discuss it. We have to explain how it's going to happen. So how increased pollution happens. So we're going to mostly talk about air pollution, because you're going to exhaust fumes. You're going to emit exhaust fumes. And we can talk about water pollution, because the oil is being, well, dug up, extracted to supply petrol, and this is also going to lead to water pollution. And we can talk about ground pollution, because production of cars requires some waste being produced. So we can discuss all of them, but it's going to be too long, so I'm not going to be able to write, but I'll try and we'll see. So how do we start? We can just use simply conditionals. If we do this, this happens, but it's too simple. Doing this leads to this. It's, well, it's also simple structure. Let's just let's do this video for, or I'll just figure it out. So I wrote this. So I said, overuse of private cars invariably leads to, I just wanted to use tentative language here, but I didn't. That definitely leads to emission of exhaust fumes, which may result in air pollution in urban areas. In addition to, so I'm just adding information here again, along with, I just wanted to use, as well as I want to use, let's just use them now, as well as water and ground pollution, which are caused by, or simply caused by, which are caused by is relative clause here. If you don't want to use which are, you can just use caused by, which is a relative clause here, a participle clause here, by production of cars and provision of petroleum. So I'm not sure about the use of word provision here. I'm just going to check my word, and we're going to move on to examples. So the word provision was the right word here, so we can move on to our example. And how do we give example? And what do we say when we're giving example? We can just simply start with for instance. I talked about this in previous lessons. I explained what kind of examples you cannot use, and they were mainly individual examples, personal examples, details, and I just said statistics and specific terms. You cannot give such information, you cannot give such details. You have to give general and general examples in some kind of region or some kind of a group. And here I just want to I just want to give just simple logical example of the level of pollution being higher in urban areas compared to rural areas, mainly because of overuse of cars or the use of cars. So I just want to change my structure here. So I wrote undeniable fact of good vocabulary here. Levels of pollution being, again here participle used, considerably higher than rural places can be presented, passive voice here, as a stark illustration, good word here, of this argument. So this is mainly our first body paragraph. I just couldn't fit it in here, so it may not be recorded in the video. I'll just read it again. So undeniable fact of levels of pollution being considerably higher than rural places can be presented as a stark illustration of this argument, of this problem. So we gave our first problem, we discussed it here, and we gave examples. So I'm just going to write first problem here, discussion part is here, and here we have examples. So you have to pay attention to the fact that when you finish this thing, it should be around 50 to 60 words, because if you are going to write more than 60 words, you're going to risk of wasting your time. Because look, the optimal word count for task 2 is 270 to 280 words. You can write 300 words, you can write up to 350 words, but it's not an optimal strategy because you have limitation in terms of time. Because if you spend your time writing 330 words, imagine you will not have time to write your task 1. So you have to mentally calibrate how much you're going to write, and you have to, after every single essay, you have to count the number of words in your body paragraphs and approximately change your strategies, change your style according to the results that you're getting. And one thing is that I have to add is that when you're writing an essay in your own exam, you have to start with task 2, because task 2 carries way more weight than task 1. So task 2 is even harder than task 1. That's why you have to start with task 2, finish the task 2, and whatever time you have to give it to task 1. So I hope the part was understandable and it was clear. And now in the next part of the video, we move on to body paragraph 2, 3, and 4. I'm not going to give any discussion and example part. I'm just going to give you templates so that you will be able to start this part, body paragraphs, properly, and move on to conclusion like in a clear way. So before moving on to second part, I'm just going to write it here because I don't want to waste my space writing this formula, this structure. So body paragraph 2 is going to be the same thing. So here what you have to pay attention to is when you're giving body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, 3, 4, we have two choices of two strategies, two ways of giving it, two structures. We can give one problem, one solution. Second problem, second solution. When our problems and solutions match clearly, meaning your first problem cannot be solved by the second solution, and your first solution cannot solve the second problem. But there are situations you have a lot of problems and a lot of solutions, but every single solution can solve every single problem in the first problem part, problem column. So in this kind of situations, we can write problems in the first place, solutions in the second place. And here, this structure, problems and solutions, is universal. You can use it everywhere. So we're going to learn this structure so that it will not confuse you. Because if we'll do two different strategies, if we work on two different strategies, it's going to be a bit confusing, because when do you decide, or how can you decide when write problem solution, and when do you work like on problem and solutions. That's why we're not going to work on problem solution part. So we're going to only focus on problems in the first part and solutions in the second part, this structure. So here I'll have to write in body paragraph 2 the second problem. So as you see, we have second problem, discussion, explanation part with example, and in body paragraph 3, first problem, first solution, discussion, explain, example, second solution, discussion, explain, example. The structure is the same. It's the basic structure doesn't change. 3 main parts, but the presentation of these parts change depending on the level of language manipulation or language acquisition of the student. Now let's move on to the basic templates that we are going to use in our body paragraph 2 and 3 and 4. So I'm just going to give them in black marker so that it will be visible to you. So here we're going to start our body paragraph 2 with, well, we can just simply say in addition, additionally, moreover, furthermore. So let's just say moreover, a further problem. So you have to pay attention to the structure as it moreover to show the link, to show the addition here. A further word, it's good, alarming word, good vocabulary, issue, which is worth mentioning. Again, here relative clause. We can simply say issue worth mentioning if we want to shorten it, because it will be participle clause again. So maybe again tentative language here. And here, what the basic thing that you have to pay attention to, the most important thing is this part, because like almost everyone makes mistake here, because they have problems with grammar foundation. After may be, after to be, we have to use noun or verb ing. But after some students, they just say maybe, and they just say they don't have it, or they just give subject verb. If you want to give after maybe or after to be, after the word, after verb to be, if you want to give a sentence, you have to use word that. For example, maybe that people don't have this thing, or maybe lack of. So people don't have, we just change it to paraphrase it to lack of, or not having. So you have to pay attention to the structure. I hope let me just give example. For example, let's just say people don't have enough time. So I say, moreover, further alarming issue which is worth mentioning may be that people don't have time. It's just this structure. Maybe, so I don't have time, it will be lack of time, maybe lack of time, or not having time. So this is a proper way of giving the second problem or whatever argument that you want to give after this structure. This is also a template. You just have to memorize it and use it in your own essays. Now we move on to body paragraph 3. Here our solution structure starts. So in body paragraph 3, so we say, so moving on to, we can say, here we used the word potential before, so I just erased the letter T and just wrote possible. So as you see, this is a very long structure. This is like around 30 words. I just didn't want to make this long, but I just had an idea, so I just wrote it. If you want, you can learn it. I just give you several structures to from short to the longest to start your solution section. So I just wrote here. So again, it's again participle clause. If we move on to, or if when we move on to, moving on to the possible measures, as you see the good word here, which again, I just use the word which a lot of times. That's why I just wanted to use that, because but you have to pay attention to the fact that that is quite informal. That's why you just have to keep using the word which, I think, which may be, again, tentative language, undertaken, passive voice plus tentative language. So we're going to get higher score here. So as to, again, good structure in order to ameliorate the severity. Again, good vocabulary here. So you have to memorize, you have to learn this word. I'm sure that 90% of people who watch this video will not know the word ameliorate and severity. Maybe they were the word severity, but I'm not sure about ameliorate. The severity of the challenge, meaning problem, the most effective and prevalent. So here's the word prevalent. Prevalent means that it's, yes, ubiquitous everywhere. It can be seen everywhere. So prevalent is mostly negative word, but I couldn't find the right synonym for the word prevalent. So I just write here prevalent so that you understand what I want to say, what kind of words I wanted to use. But I think it's not a good idea to use this word because it's mostly in negative context. For example, problem can be prevalent, issue can be prevalent, but solution cannot be prevalent here. If I have the word in the continuation of the essay, I'll just say it. But if I don't remember, so we just have to stick to this word for now. So instead of prevalent, I don't have the word now, so let's just continue like this. Prevalent one, as you see here, we're doing it again. By one, we're just referring back to the word challenge, and it's just a good way of paraphrasing. It's a reference word. Could be again here tentative language, and again, I just wanted to stress it one more time so that you will not make mistakes here. And it was too long, so I just recommend using shorter structures if you have a lot of ideas. And if you don't have any ideas, for example, there are people with no practical knowledge in any sphere, and you don't know how to describe the word, you don't know how to describe the situation. In this kind of situations, for example, imagine we're talking about this problem of pollution and solving the problem. For example, we have to write the first solution. The first solution was adopting eco-friendly technology. So I obviously wrote a long structure, adopting an eco-friendly technologies in transportation system. But imagine you're the person who don't have any idea, who doesn't have any idea about eco-friendly technology. What do you mean by eco-friendly technology? Imagine you writing solution to this, yes, eco-friendly technology, and using this structure. So by this structure, if you don't have any ideas, you're guaranteed to get higher score because we have here longer structure, good grammar, good vocabulary, and good cohesion level. So that's why you're not going to lose using this structure. And when you don't have any idea to demonstrate from your own mind. So I don't have enough space here. I'm not sure about what it before. I will just try here. So let's just write. So as I promised, I gave a shorter structure for second solution. What I before, you can simply say, in order to tackle the problems, another equally practical remedy may be simply, where simply you can just add here furthermore to show that there is a transition from first solution to the next further solution, second solution. So if you don't use furthermore, there may be slight problem with cohesion level, so that's why I added further more. So that's the basic template that we are going to use in our body paragraphs, and if you understand everything, we are going to move on to conclusion now. And now let's start concluding part of our essay, conclusion. And in conclusion, the conclusion is, the structure of conclusion is quite basic. In conclusion, so as you see, the basic structure of conclusion is paraphrase the topic, which is optional. You have to do it only when you are running the risk of not being able to write 250 words. So you paraphrase the topic and you just gain the, like 10, 15, if you're like lucky, 20 words. And then you have to restate the problems and solutions in short form. You don't have to describe it. You just have to restate the short introduction to the problems and solutions, just short version of them. Now let's just try to write this one together. So as you see, I wrote, in conclusion, this phenomenon, this course of action or topic. So if it's a situation, you just have to do this phenomenon. Or if it is an action some person is making or doing, due action, right? So we can say this course of action. Or here is a paraphrasing the topic part. You can just give it again. In conclusion, our reliance on cars would seem to bring, again, we're using here tense language, would seem to bring about. Bring about means lead to, result in numerous severe challenges to the society. Here, I just put the word in brackets because there are a lot of situations when it's not society, when it's people themselves. So you just have to, here, if you want to add, give the people who are suffering, give the side who is suffering from these problems. It can be to the society, to the people, to the animals, or to countries, to cities. It can be anything here, depending on your essay. So including, and we just give our first problem, the second problem. And then the problems in our essay was including increased pollution and traffic congestions. So you say, then after this, in order to eliminate them, meaning solve them or destroy or just remove them, a variety of steps can be taken. Here again, this is extra part. If you want to add and if you want to get more words, actually it's better for your task achievement too, because you're just giving extra information here. Taken by whom? Who should undertake these solutions? So I said by governments and individuals themselves in our situation. Can be taken by governments and individuals themselves, such as your first solution and your second solution. So basic structures that we have to pay attention to is adding this information depending on your situation and giving the template. The template is the same for every single problem solution essay. Giving the template to achieve higher grammar, less core resources, task achievement, coherence, cohesion score. You just have to add this red parts, problems and solutions to your this structure in order to get higher score. I hope everything was clear. That's the end of our problem solution essay analysis. If you have any questions, leave it in comments or approach your own teacher. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next lessons.